Hansel and Gretel by Rika Lesser. Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel. At the edge of a great forest lived a poor woodcutter, and he could scarcely manage to feed his wife and his two children, Hansel and Gretel. And this made him miserable. One day, the day came when there was nothing left to eat in the house, but only one loaf of bread, and he grew terribly anxious. His wife told him that evening as they laid in bed, "Listen, husband, there's something you must do if we are not all to starve. Early the next morning, take the two children out and give them of the bread that we have, and lead them to the forest, build a fire for them, and wait till it gets really burning, and go away and leave them there." For a long time, the man couldn't think of himself to even to do that, but she gave him no peace until he finally agreed. The children heard everything their mother had said, and Gretel began to cry. "Hush," said Hansel. "It'll be all right. I have an idea." Then they got up quietly as they could and put on their jacket and went outside. White pebbles on the ground glistened in the moonlight. Hansel carefully gathered up them and stuffed them in his jacket, and as many that he could fit in there. And they went back inside and laid down next to his sister and fell asleep. Early the next morning, before the sun had risen, the parents came to awaken the children. To them they brought each a piece of bread. Gretel took both pieces and put them underneath her apron because her brother's pockets were filled with pebbles. Then they all went out on the path into the forest. While they were walking along, Hansel stood there and peered at the house. His father asked, "What are you doing?" And stopped looking back. He said, "Oh, I'm looking at my white kitten who is sitting on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me." Secretly, every time he gazed back, Hansel dropped a white pebble on the path. His mother just said, "Just keep going. It's not just your kitten. And that's not your kitten. It is morning shining on the roof, not the cat." But Hansel kept gazing back. Each time he did, he dropped another stone. And so they went walking along for a long time until they got to the mist in the great meadow of the forest. Start over. And so they went walking for a long time until they were in the midst of the great forest, where they stopped and gathered some firewood. Their father lit a giant fire. While it was burning brightly, her mother said, "Rest now, children. Your father and I are going to go cut some wood. Wait here by the fire until we come back." The children sat by the fire and ate their bread and waited until nightfall, but their parents did not return. And when it was very, very dark, Gretel began to cry, but Hansel said to her, "Just wait a little longer until the moon is up." And when the moon was up, the pebbles gleamed white in the moonlight and showed him the way home. Hansel took Gretel's hand, and together they walked through the woods. In the morning they reached home, and their father was overjoyed to see them, but he had not been happy for what he had done, and their mother was angry. Not long again, there was almost nothing left to eat in the house again, and again, after going to bed, the children heard their mother tell their father that they must be taken into the forest, and deeper than they had gone before, and again Gretel began to cry. And Hansel got up very quietly and gathered pebbles again. When he got to the door, he found his mother had locked it. Hansel, too, grew sad because he couldn't comfort his sister. Early the morning, before daybreak, they all got up. Each of the children was given a piece of bread. And as they walked along, Hansel asked and paused to look back. "My boy, what are you doing? Stop staring back at the house." He said, "Oh, I'm looking at my little pigeon who is perched on the roof and wanted to say goodbye to me." Secretly, however, he had crumbled a piece of bread each time and dropped the crumbs on the path. "Oh, just keep going," the mother said. "It's not your pigeon. It is morning, and that's the morning sun striking the chimney." But Hansel kept glancing back, and every time he did, he dropped another crumb. And when they had come to the deeper part of the forest, where it was the thickest, they stopped. Their father built a big fire, and their mother told them to rest while they were off to chop firewood, and that if they stayed by the fire, they would be just fine. Gretel gave half her bread to Hansel because Hansel had strewn his all over the path, and they waited until evening, but no one came to fetch them. It grew very dark, and the moon rose, and Hansel looked for his breadcrumbs, but they were gone. Thousands of woodland birds had pecked them and eaten them. Hansel, still meant to find their way home, pulled Gretel along with them, and they walked through the woods and through the next day, but they got lost in the great forest. On the third day, chilled and hungry, they came across a house all made out of bread. The roof was of pancakes, and the windows were sugar candy. And the children were so happy to see it that they ran up to it. Hansel took the spongy loaf roof, and Gretel took the sparkling panes of window, and they ate greedily. And Hansel was devouring a giant chunk of roof, while Gretel was pushing yet a giant pane of window pane. And they heard a nimble voice come from inside. "Nibble, nibble, nibble, who gnaws on my rubble?" And the children were so frightened that they let fall what they had taken in their hands. Uh-oh. Just then, an old, gnarled woman came gliding out the door. When she caught sight of the hungry children, she wagged her head and said, "Oh, you poor little things, come in with me. There's plenty of eat in the house, and I will take care of you." And she took them both by the hand and led them into the house and served them a fine dinner. And they made up a bed for the tired children for them to lay down, and they fell fast asleep. The next morning, before Hansel and Gretel awoke, the old woman crept by their bedside and watched the two sleeping sweetly and thought to herself, "Now that is a tasty morsel for you." And she lifted Hansel up and carried him outside and locked him in a small stall, as if he was a piglet. And then she went back into the house and shook Gretel awake. "Get up, little lazy girl. Go out to the well and draw the water and get to work and make something to eat. Your brother is in the stall over there. First we have to fatten him up, and then when he is so fat, I shall eat him." Don't know who's worse, the old lady or the mother. Gretel, terrified of the old woman, had to do what she was told. Every day she brought Hansel water and lots of good food to eat. She herself got nothing but crayfish shells. Ew. And each day the old woman went to Hansel's stall and told him to stick one of his fingers so she could feel it growing nice and plump. And one day Hansel held out a bone of a finger. One evening, after 4 weeks had gone by, why didn't they just say a month? It had just seemed that Hansel was growing no fatter, and the woman said to Gretel, "Well, now he better be quick about it and fetch the water and get the cauldron started, because tomorrow morning, whether your brother is fat or not, I'm going to slaughter him and boil him. And while you're out getting the water, I'll be kneading dough, because we bake bread while he's cooking." Whoops, I forgot to flip the page. There's the bone. Okay. Early in the morning, when Gretel woke up, she lit the fire underneath the cauldron and filled it with water, and the bread was already in the oven. And the old woman called out to Gretel, "Come here right now, and it smells like bread, and it will all be home soon. And my eyes are weak, and I need you to look and see if the bread is turning golden brown yet. And if you can't see far enough, get on the board and I'll push you in. And there's be plenty of room in the oven so you can see. And once you're inside, you can take a good old look." And now that what the old woman really meant is she would leave Gretel in the oven to roast as well. But Gretel could tell the woman had something else in mind and said, "I'm not quite sure how to go about it. Could you show me? If you got on the board and I'll push you in, and then I can learn from you." She's a smart cookie. And as the old woman sat on the board, Gretel pushed her into the oven as far as she could, and then she slammed the door with the iron bolt. And inside, the old woman screamed and howled, while Gretel went running away. The old woman burned to ashes. Gretel ran directly to Hansel's stall and let him out. And she told him what she had done, and the happy children hugged and kissed each other. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Witch, old witch, the witch, witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead. She's in the oven. Yep, okay. One last time, they went back into the witch's hut. Everywhere they looked, everything was sparkling in gems and jewels. And they took all of it and carried it with them and set off home. They walked, and at last the woods started to look familiar. And when they arrived home, their father wept with joy to see them. Their mother had died, he told them. Every day that they had been gone had been filled with sadness for him. And now they emptied his pockets with glistening jewels, and the woodcutter and his children lived happily and ever after and prospered to the end of their days. I don't think the mother actually died of her own accord. I mean, think about it. If you had two children that you loved dearly, and their mother told them that they had to go away and you had to basically kill them, wouldn't you kill her instead? Thoughts?